The man opened the iron lock on the neck, only to save the woman. He growled loudly, and his body grew big. Within seconds, turned into a werewolf. Currently, the wild wolf army that was besieging the forest were all threatened by this king's aura. Take turns backwards. But when the man came back to check the situation, the man who had just threatened the wolf with the blink of an eye was tied to the pillar with an iron chain. An old man with blue eyes walked towards him, blame him for not removing the chains, betraying his trust, even to save people. After he left, a soldier armed with a specially made whip punished the man. This is a world full of werewolves and vampires. Since the werewolf Lucian was held captive by Victor, the wild wolves were transformed by Lucian. Some live in the desert, another piece held by Victor in front of the gate, to protect the existence of the vampire clan. Until one day the mother wolf gave birth to a baby boy. It all makes for some magical changes. Years later Lucian has grown up. He inherited the strength and speed of a werewolf. He is also able to maintain the form and the human mind. The leader of the vampires, Victor, being able to make all of the werewolf slaves, became more advanced. Will bring some people and bring them in front of Lucian, forcing him to copy a new werewolf slave for himself. Over time, a new werewolf race was born, the vampire clan, asking the humans for help, kill wild werewolves, and sell werewolf slaves, under the leadership of the leader Victor. Power and money reached a peak, but to gain, there must be a loss. Victor has a headstrong daughter, Sonia, who always gives him a headache. One day, he went into the forest alone to explore, met a pack of wild wolves. But the guard is still considered good. Try your best to kill the werewolves, then run out of the forest towards the city walls. At this time, Lucian also felt something unusual. Take a crossbow out of the box wall. Aim at the 3 werewolves chasing Sonia. Lucian manages to confront the 2 werewolves. And when the princess ran into town, she shot and killed the werewolf. Sonia took off her hat to reveal her pretty face, but he never thanked Lucian. But just look at him and leave casually. But everyone doesn't know that. At the end of the day, Lucian silently jumped into the ditch, climbing the wall, come to a secret cave. Wasn't the person he met, the cold vampire princess Sonia. A vampire and a werewolf though fall in love, but the result, of course, will not be so good. One day Lucian wanted to save his lover, even though he had to remove the iron necklace around his neck, threatening packs of wild wolves that attacked them. Then Victor gave chase. Victor didn't thank him. It was a slap that taught him not to take off his collar of loyalty. Lucian was beaten to death, and then locked up in prison. Sonia also tries to convince Victor to save Lucian, but he said it was the result of all werewolf slaves to release their iron apes. Lucian will be tortured 3 days later. Sonia couldn't express her desire to save Lucian. There is no other way, only can find this man. Tanis specializes in logistics and vampire clan history. Sonia agrees that saving Lucian will give him the status of a member of parliament. Tanis immediately agreed. Right after that, asked Tanis to arrange it. Sonia finally meets her lover. He told Lucian that Victor wanted to deal with him, and arranged for him tomorrow morning, when changing guards, run away. Finally, the two met again 3 days later at a creek outside the city. Sonia then hurried off, in time for the next morning. In the dark prison, Lucian took advantage of the last time. Tell the slaves to run away together. After all was well arranged, a man came here to check the room. Lucian's henchmen pretend that Lucian has run away. This idiot rushed over to check, but Lucian suddenly appears and arrests him. Just like that, Lucian got the key, let all the werewolf companions out. A group of people started their escape plan, but too many people still found by the vampire guard. Arrows shot towards the fleeing werewolves. Countless werewolves killed. In the end, except for the Lucians, the other werewolves were locked up in the same place. Left with no choice, Lucian promised them that he would return, and fled. Just then, Lucian caught the two vampires, breaking down the door to get out into the sunlight. The two vampires disappeared into the sunlight, and the Lucians are finally free. 3 days after sunset, Lucian arrived on time at the small river outside the city. Prepare a map for Sonia to appear. But a man on horseback came here. The mysterious person is Sonia's best friend. This man entered a strange cave. Here there are many werewolves who are said to be the most ferocious. When the man was shocked, the wolf's mouth came right next to it. But the terrible thing did not happen. This pack of werewolves surrendered to the man in front of them. Lucian was the first werewolf who was able to transform into both a wolf and a human. Since childhood, he was raised as a slave by vampires. Falls in love again with daughter Sonia of vampire leader Victor. Thanks to Lucian's help, Lucian took a group of werewolves from captivity and meet Sonia somewhere in the woods outside the city and run off together. But the unexpected always happens. That day, Victor felt that Sonia was not normal. So he went to his daughter's room. Did Lucian have anything to do with him? Sonia, of course, didn't admit it, but vampires have the ability to see the memories of enemies through blood. Victor suddenly bit Sonia's neck. In the blink of an eye, everything between Sonia and Lucian flashed through Victor's head. Victor was angry and hit Sonia. He angrily left the room, ordering it to be kept under heavy guard. Soon, the day of Sonia and Lucian's meeting arrived. But Lucian couldn't wait for Sonia. It is Sonia's best friend who comes to report that Victor knows everything. Lucian learns of Victor's crimes, but also know its power. Right now still can't fight Victor. So, he went into town to save Sonia. Lucian reached Sonia's room, easier than he had imagined. He wanted to get her out of this place. The two chose the water route they used to escape, but didn't run far, only to see the front cover suddenly open. It turned out that Victor knew from the start that Lucian would definitely come, and immediately guessed this way. After the explosion, Lucian has no choice but to try with Sonia once. After a long time of fighting, it's not surprising that Lucian is controlled by the vampire army. The crucial moment, Sonia takes advantage of her father, pinning Victor under his sword. He didn't want to kill Victor. Sonia took her hand and placed it on her stomach, asking her to let go. But Victor learned this news. On the contrary, became even more angry when Sonia wasn't paying attention. He used the dagger to control Sonia. Judgment Day has arrived. Lucian was tied in the middle with an iron chain, and Sonia was tied to a stone pillar. The tied girl said goodbye for the last time. The canopy at the top of the head slowly opens. A strong light shines. The girl projected into a smoking corpse. This is the tragic outcome of a werewolf and a vampire's love. The werewolf leader was exhausted and lost consciousness on the spot. Waiting until nightfall, Victor finally made his way around the execution ground, seeing that his daughter was completed with his own hands. It was complicated. When he took off the girl's necklace, he found Lucian had regained consciousness. When he ordered people to kill Lucian, there was a full moon in the sky. It was then that the werewolves were most powerful. Lucian hit the arrow behind his back, then turned into a wolf, and broke free from the iron chains. After showing Victor's face, he takes Sonia's necklace and runs away. At this time, the guards also gave chase, shot arrows through Lucian, who was about to run away. He tried his best to escape, but still unable to withstand the attacks. Eventually screams reached every nook and cranny. Lucian was still hit by arrows on the ground. But in the forest outside the city, there was a change in the gazes of the werewolves. Countless wild wolves seemed to feel Lucian's call, leave the forest, and attack the vampire's castle. Victor finally realized the seriousness of his situation. All troops immediately prepared. Huge arrows flashed at the wolves outside the city. But facing so many wolves, the arrow can't win. The wild wolves passed through the wall and entered the city. Rely on more quantity. under the attack of wild wolves. The vampire army was immediately disbanded. The werewolf also reached the wall. Rays took out each of Lucien's arrows. Lucian ordered to enter the prison to save the werewolves and the other slaves. Victor also brought troops to battle. Lucian, who was standing on the wall, saw Victor. Immediately jumped down. An air of majesty walked towards Victor. While Lucian was busy dealing with the soldiers, Victor jumps into the drain and escapes from the battlefield. Lucian wants revenge, so he went after Victor. Finally, in an empty lot, Victor was found. They fought in this dark dungeon. Used the sword first. Then he started pressing on the floor like a child. Victor took the hoop that hit Lucian hard, then kicked him. Victor didn't want to fight anymore, so he chose to run away. But the hatred in Lucien's heart was too deep to be chased. The two started fighting again in the ditch. Finally, Lucian suddenly found sunlight on the ceiling, caused a big hole in the ceiling. Take advantage of the vampire's weakness. Lucian uses iron chains to restrain Victor. In the end, the sword kills the vampire leader. At the end of the film, Lucian finally gets the werewolf to rise and become the new leader of the werewolves. But he was still too careless. In the sea, deep in the floating boat,